Final Fantasy XIV has had a lot of mysteries over the years, some answered, some still waiting to be answered. Its top-tier writing and world building has given us this living, breathing world that has just as many mysteries, if not more, than our own world. One such mystery has been going on since the 1.0 version of the game, and is the one that players have been waiting over a decade to learn the answers to. We also have another mystery, one that has been evading me since I finished Shadowbringers patch 5.2. Hello everyone, I'm Soldier First Class, and I'll be taking you on a deep dive into the new Endwalker artwork we received from the 2021 FanFest, the FanFest trailer itself, and the trailer we received for patch 5.5 at a recent live letter. I'd like to begin by talking about the character Venat. In Shadowbringers, it was revealed that Hydaelyn, the primal that caused the sundering of the Source, was created by Amaurot separatists. In patch 5.2, it was revealed that their leader was an Amaurot known as Venat. Believing that, regardless of Zodiark saving the world, the fate of the star would be the same, Venat became the heart of the primal Hydaelyn, eventually defeating Zodiark and ripping the world into 14 separate shards. But what we don't know is what happened to Venat. Elidibus, the emissary and heart of Zodiark, broke himself free from the god of the ancients and is a part of our journey till 5.3's conclusion. But the one Amaurot that we know very little about and have seen even less of is Venat, and has been nowhere to be found. Now you could make the argument that she is still inside of Hydaelyn, but I think that oversimplifies the situation, and signs point to this not even being the case. Especially since 5.2 made it a point to show her and bring her to the front of the Hydaelyn-Zodiark conflict in the build-up to Endwalker. For our first piece of analysis, I want to take a look at the location anamnesis anyder, which takes place in patch 5.2 and gives us a lot of interesting information. One such piece of information is the introduction of the character Venat, who, as we discussed before, became the heart of Hydaelyn. This scene is also where we find out that Elidibus became the heart of Zodiark. But what's interesting to note is something that Venat says in the second half of the recordings. She tells the other Amaurot in the recording, "Rest assured, however, I shall not vanish from this world. The form I take shall ever remain my choice." This is where things begin to get interesting, because as we know, Elidibus, and the Convocation in general, take on the form of their choosing when it comes to being a part of our world. So what exactly has Venat been up to since that time that she became the heart of Hydaelyn? Well, that answer is kinda complicated, but I fully believe that we'll soon be getting that answer, and before Endwalker even begins. First, let's take a look at the new Endwalker key art, because there's a few secrets here that need to be pointed out. I want to point out the white-robed woman who is standing at the top of the artwork, as she's never been seen before, and she's holding something very interesting in her hands. If it looks a little familiar, it's because that's an Amaurot-shaped mask, albeit with some design work added. For me, without a shadow of a doubt, this woman is Venat. For further evidence, let's look at the artwork itself and notice the placement of the characters in it. The overall outline here is in the shape of Hydaelyn, with the mysterious woman taking the place of the top of Hydaelyn's crystal form. If you look at various parts of the key art, starting from the bottom, you can see the bottom of the crystal between Tataru's feet. Light is pushing itself out behind Urianger, our warrior of light, Alphino, and Alize. We can also see a spike of blue coloring just behind the woman in the image that appears to be the spire of Hydaelyn. If you look even behind this, you can see what appears to be circular lines painted behind her, something that is nowhere else in the artwork. A little unimportant bonus, the Warrior of Light is in the same position as Firion from the key art of Final Fantasy II. Let's take another look at the placement of the woman in the image. Since A Realm Reborn, anytime Hydaelyn has been a major focus or large reveals about her have happened, her vessels have been a major focus of the key art. If we look at A Realm Reborn, Minfilia is in front and center. In the Shadowbringers key art, Reen is shown at the very top between Emet Selch, who appears to be staring at her, and the Crystal Exarch. Now, if we look at where the woman is now placed in the Endwalker key art, she's at the very top, just like Reen, in an almost angelic positioning. I also want to point out something else that I touched on a little bit earlier. Behind this mystery woman, we can see these curved lines I mentioned, but let's compare it to this screenshot taken of Hydaelyn in crystal form. The same curved lines can be seen around the tip of Hydaelyn's crystal. Now let's take a look at the woman herself, because there are even more details that point toward this being Venat. She's wearing a white robe, holding an Amaurot-style mask in her left hand, and has an oddly familiar hairstyle. If we compare this woman to the different versions of Minfilia, we can see that the hairstyles, specifically the braids, are very similar. Minfilia, as we know, had become the voice of Hydaelyn, and on the first, Minfilias were part of a repeating cycle of the reincarnation process. It's hard to tell here, but if the left side of her hair has a ribbon around it, much like we see with Minfilia and Reen, this is 100% Venat and would explain why all Minfilias are similar in appearance. There's one last visual piece of evidence to support this, and it comes in the hand gesture comparison between all the different forms of Minfilia and Venat. Look at Minfilia and Reen's right hands, and compare this to the screenshot of Venat in Anamnesis anyder. Look similar? Now look at the key art, where she's holding an Amaurot mask to her chest. While she's using the opposite hand, likely due to the artist wanting to accent the mask, it's still in the exact position as Reen, Minfilia, and Amaurot Venat. With all this in mind, I want to discuss the Silver Tier Lake screen we saw in the patch 5.5 trailer we got at the Endwalker reveal show. There's a figure or outline of a figure we see at Silver Tier Lake in the 5.5 trailer in front of the remains of Midgard-Zormr. This glowing figure appears to be wearing robes of some sort, maybe even amaurotine in nature, and is a bright white structure of light. Now let's take a look at Reen when she takes on the form of Hydaelyn in the Eden Raid series. If we look at the outfit she's wearing here and compare it to the outline of the glowing figure at Silver Tier Lake, the outline is very similar, minus the circular structures behind Reen. This makes me believe that the figure at Silver Tier Lake is in fact Venat. It also makes me wonder if this is where the segue into Sharlayan will come from, maybe in the form of a personal invite from Venat. There are several mysteries surrounding the lake, a lot of which stem from 1.0 material that has never been revealed since. Midgard-Zormr struck a deal with Hydaelyn that he would protect whatever was sealed in Silver Tier Lake in exchange for settling on the source. When Midgard-Zormr sacrificed himself during the battle over Silver Tier Lake, the large dragon crashed into the water with the Imperial battleship, appearing to break the seal, releasing massive amounts of ether. But what else was released during this event? Did Midgard-Zormr accidentally release whatever Hydaelyn wanted to protect, or is this mystery still locked away? I think Endwalker will finally reveal this secret and show us what Venat has been hiding all these centuries. Could it possibly be the sound that caused the final days, and why is this bright light figure appearing to us at this exact spot? I also find it highly interesting that after all these years of hearing about Sharlayan, we're only now taking our first steps there in Endwalker. Now, this could be for a number of reasons, specifically Sharlayan policy when it comes to outsiders. I bring this up for a few reasons, but the main one being that white seems to be the main color scheme for Sharlayan society. White clothing, white hair, and white architecture are all symbols of Sharlayan society. This is in direct contrast to Zodiark and the Scions, who align with the colors of purple and black. Now, the reason why I bring up Sharlayan is because I'm about to dive even deeper into the rabbit hole, but bear with me because I promise it's worth it. When Sharlayan was shown at FanFest, we got to get a glimpse of the aetheryte located there. If this structure looks familiar, it's because there's a structure that can be found in the akadaemia anyder dungeon located at the end. We see an amaurotine apparently sacrificing itself for a summoning, but behind them, you can see the same spiral structure that the aetheryte in Sharlayan has. If Venat is the real founder of Sharlayan like I suspect, then this similarity in architecture would also make sense. In the recent full trailer we received, Sharlayan leader and twin's father, Venat Levelur, was seen arguing with Hydaelyn in the forum at Sharlayan. Hydaelyn appeared to be asking for aid, but as we know, they don't like to get involved. Unless, of course, it's sending out hitmen to take care of an astrologian problem. Moving on, deeply respecting the founder of Sharlayan, Venat could be easily influenced by Venat, or maybe even going as far as saying he's tempered by her. Sharlayan was founded by a man whose name I have no hope of pronouncing. However, before founding Sharlayan, he was a hero of the 6th Umbral Calamity when he built a large wooden ship and saved Eorzeans from drowning during the floods. Using the power of astrology, he was able to determine when this flood would occur. Now, not to get religious here, but Final Fantasy writers love using religious myths from cultures around the world, and this is a really close comparison to the tale of Noah's Ark. In that tale, Noah was told by God that a great flood was coming and that he was to build a great ark made of wood to save those who would build the new world. Much like Noah's Ark, which was allegedly found in the Mount Ararat region of Turkey, Homie's ship can be found in the mountainous region of Garabanya known as the Peaks. If God told Noah of the Great Flood and told him to rebuild the new world, then Venat is likely taking up this role in Final Fantasy XIV. This would explain Sharlayan's want to remain observers from a distance because their huge secret, Venat's huge secret, is that she founded Sharlayan as a way to preserve the world's perception of Hydaelyn as a light-aligned deity and keep Zodiark locked away. If the world believes Hydaelyn to be the savior of the source, then they will help fight the Convocation and the Scions that wish to rejoin their star to its original form. This ensures that Hydaelyn's will remains absolute and that Zodiark never returns. The reason this feels important to the overall story of Venat is that much like Emet Selch founded both the Allagan and Garlean empires, I believe Venat is the real mastermind behind the founding of Sharlayan. It would make sense that if Emet was in charge of creating empires to further the goals of Zodiark, then Venat would need to do the same to ensure Hydaelyn's continued victory. Who knows, maybe the founder of Sharlayan was one of Hydaelyn's tempered, with Venat pulling the strings. Better yet, if Venat has the ability to possess bodies like the Scions do, maybe Venat was possessing him and actually was the founder of Sharlayan. This would explain the form I take will always be of my own choosing thing. Since we found out about Venat at first in the anamnesis anyder and amaurot, it's almost to be assumed that she's also some sort of scientist. If that's true, then that would explain Sharlayan's affinity with knowledge. Yoshi P showed us a new dungeon during the keynote address of FanFest, but also didn't give us a name. However, it's worth noting that the background of this dungeon features the same large aurosite-looking structures that are seen in Anamnesis anyder. Could this be a dungeon where we learn more about Venat and Hydaelyn? There's also a new area that they showed off called Labyrinthos, which also features some interesting similarities to a certain Amaurot dungeon. In the Akadaemia Anyder dungeon's opening cutscene, what appears to be a large greenhouse with lots of vegetables growing can be seen inside the building. The new Labyrinthos area is a large greenhouse-like area with an artificial solar source, which Yoshi P confirmed to be located underground. This leads me to believe that Labyrinthos is based off of Venat's memory of the Akadaemia Anyder and a place she could have spent a lot of time in. I also want to point out the writings of the Encyclopedia Eorzeas and how they're viewed. The encyclopedias are written from what appears to be a Sharlayan perspective, but are of course authored by the lore keepers Bon Ryota and Michael Christopher Koji Fox. These Sharlayan propaganda, as we'll call them, paint Hydaelyn in the best light possible, and are written in a way that keeps that heavenly image we've seen for most of the game. They're almost as important to the game and story as the game itself, and are definitely worth a read if you can get your hands on them. This is another reason that I'm led to believe that Venat has influenced Sharlayan life and knowledge. So this isn't super important to this theory, but I want to take one final look at this key art, specifically Thancred in his position to the woman in the image. I believe we're going to see Thancred in a possible Cypher Ultimecia role in Endwalker. An underlying theme of Final Fantasy XIV and its expansions seem to be about things coming full circle. Thancred has protected the different forms of Minfilia in each of the expansions where she's a prominent figure. If this woman is truly Venat, I could see Thancred becoming conflicted or maybe even tempered, as Ultimecia did to Cypher Almasi in Final Fantasy VIII. Plus, you know, Gunbreaker go brrr. Overall, I fully believe that this mystery woman will turn out to be Venat, and that she will have been the real founder behind Sharlayan. I also believe she will be the final boss of Endwalker, as it's already been stated that Fandaniel and Xenos will not be. But as with any theory, I want to know what you all think. Who is this mystery woman, and what role will she play in the story of Endwalker? Hey guys, I want to thank you for watching this theory video, and don't forget to omni-slash that like button. Let me know in the comments section below who you think this woman is and your Endwalker theories. Subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell to join the ranks of Soldier today. And for all the latest Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker news, rumors, trailers, and theories, I'm Soldier First Class, and I'm on to the next mission. Later, guys. So I'm just looking at the artwork here, and forgive me, Zodiark, for I must simp.